Welcome to Neural Nexus Podcast, where we explore the hottest topics shaping the world. Let's dive in.
All right, so welcome everybody to the deep dive. And, today we're going to be taking a look at the U.S. economy in March of 2025. I was looking at some of these articles that came out, and it's a fascinating snapshot right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of innovation happening, but you can't escape this undercurrent of uncertainty.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think what's so interesting about it is when you look at some of the headlines, on the surface, they seem so different and disconnected. But when you actually start to put the pieces together, you realize that they're all part of this larger narrative about where we are and where we're headed.
Exactly. Like you've got this story about, millions of dollars in stimulus money that's still unclaimed.
Right.
And then on the other hand, you have Nvidia unveiling these insanely powerful new AI chips that seem like they're straight out of science fiction.
Totally.
And of course, no conversation about the economy would be complete without talking about the elephant in the room, or maybe the Cybertruck in the room.
Right.
Tesla and Elon Musk.
Right.
Who continue to just disrupt industries and now even influence government policy.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to unpack these seemingly separate threads, pull out the most important insights, and ultimately understand how they all connect, to give you, the listener, a clearer picture of the economic forces at play right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. It's all about making sense of the bigger picture and, understanding how these different pieces of the puzzle fit together.
Okay, so let's start with this story about the unclaimed stimulus money. It's kind of mind-blowing to think that years after the pandemic relief efforts, there's still cash out there waiting to be claimed.
I think the first thing to understand is that we're talking about the 2021 Recovery Rebate Credit. So these were the $1,400 stimulus payments that went out to eligible Americans as part of the pandemic response. And apparently, over 1 million people haven't filed the necessary tax returns to actually receive that money.
So there's money just sitting there waiting for them, and they haven't claimed it.
Yeah.
That seems hard to believe. And the window to claim it is closing fast.
Wow. The deadline to file that 2021 tax return is April 15th, 2025. So less than a month away.
Wow. That is a tight timeline. It feels like a missed opportunity for a lot of people, especially when you consider that the average tax refund in early 2025 is, I think, around $3,300 and some change.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
The IRS data put it at an average of $3,324 to be exact.
So another $1,400 on top of that could be a real game changer for some households.
Absolutely, especially when you factor in the fact that inflation and the cost of living are still on the rise.
Right. So for individuals and families who are struggling, this could be a real lifeline. But it makes you think about the bigger picture, too. What does it say about our economy that so much of this relief hasn't been accessed?
Well, it definitely raises some questions about how effective our safety net programs really are and whether they're actually reaching the people they're intended to help.
Right.
Is it an issue of financial literacy? Maybe people just don't know how to navigate the tax system or the application process, or maybe there are deeper systemic issues that are preventing certain populations from accessing these resources.
Like a lack of awareness or maybe difficulty in even filing a tax return in the first place?
Exactly. And when you consider that consumer spending accounts for like over 2/3 of the U.S. GDP, getting this money into the hands of consumers could actually have a ripple effect.
Right. It could stimulate the economy and help boost growth.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. With less than a month to go before the deadline, is it realistic to expect this unclaimed relief to have a major impact at this point?
Well, I think the answer is probably not. At a macro level, the impact will likely be pretty small. But, for the individuals who are able to claim it, the effect could be huge.
So it's more of a microeconomic impact than a macroeconomic one.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Okay, let's shift gears now and talk about something that feels like it's pushing us into the future, these new AI chips from Nvidia.
Yeah, this is a huge development in the tech world.
It sounds like a major leap forward.
It definitely is. So Nvidia held their annual GTC conference on March 18th, and they unveiled 2 new chips, the Blackwell Ultra and the Vera Rubin.
And when we talk about AI and these chips, sometimes it feels very abstract, right?
Well,
Like, okay, it's faster processing, but what does that actually mean in the real world? So can you break it down for us? Like, what kind of tangible advancements will these new NVIDIA chips enable that we haven't seen before? Are we talking about incremental improvements here, or are we talking about, like, fundamental shifts?
I think that's a great question, and the answer is it's a bit of both. So the Blackwell Ultra is designed to be like an immediate upgrade. It offers huge performance gains for current AI workloads, and it's expected to ship later this year.
Yeah.
But the Vera Rubin, that's the one that's really mind-blowing.
Okay, tell us about the Vera Rubin.
So this chip is scheduled for 2026, and it represents a massive leap in processing power. It can handle 50 petaflops.
50 petaflops. Okay, that's a number that's hard to even comprehend. Can you put that into perspective for us?
Yeah, so a petaflop is 1 quadrillion calculations per second. To give you an idea, the Blackwell chips can handle 20 petaflops, which is already a ton of power.
Right.
But 50 petaflops, that's a whole other level. It means you can train and deploy much larger, much more complex AI models.
Yeah.
And that opens the door to some pretty incredible possibilities.
Like what specifically? I mean, what are some examples of how this level of computing power could change things?
Oh, well, for starters, it could lead to breakthroughs in medicine.
Right.
Imagine accelerated drug discovery or personalized treatments that are tailored to your specific genetic makeup.
Wow.
And then there's climate modeling. With this kind of power, we could create much more accurate and sophisticated models to help us understand and address climate change.
Right.
And then there's language processing. We could have real-time, highly accurate language translation, or we could develop virtual assistants that can understand and respond to our needs in a truly human-like way.
So like a real Star Trek universal translator?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, there are huge implications for autonomous systems like self-driving cars and drones. This level of processing power could make them much safer and more reliable.
So it sounds like we're talking about a potential revolution in a whole range of fields.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it.
And it seems like there's already a ton of demand for this kind of technology. I mean, the pre-orders for the Blackwell chips are astronomical.
Yeah, off the charts.
$11 billion for 1.8 million chips in 2025 alone. Like, what's driving that kind of demand? Why are companies so eager to get their hands on this technology?
Well, it's all about staying ahead of the curve. Data center giants are betting big on AI, and they see these chips as the key to unlocking a whole new world of possibilities.
Right.
It's about gaining a competitive advantage and capitalizing on the huge potential of the AI market, which by some estimates is on track to be $1 trillion industry by 2030.
$1 trillion, that's just, it's hard to even fathom that.
It is. And Nvidia themselves are projecting a 50-fold increase in revenue from these new chips compared to their older Hopper chips.
So we're not just talking about incremental growth here. This is like exponential growth.
Exactly.
But here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
The reporting also highlights some potential headwinds for Nvidia. It's not a guaranteed smooth ride, is it?
No, definitely not. I mean, there are a few things that could throw a wrench in the works. For one, we did see a tech sell-off earlier this year, and that can impact valuations across the entire sector.
Right, investors can get spooked, and that can affect stock prices.
Exactly. And then you have competition. Companies like AMD and Intel are also working on their own AI chips, and they're not going to just sit back and let Nvidia run away with the market.
So Nvidia is going to have to fight to maintain their dominance.
They are.
Yeah.
And then there's the geopolitical factor. The potential for tariffs on the supply chain for these components is a real concern.
Right, those tariffs that the Trump administration has been talking about, those could really disrupt things.
They could. It could increase costs, create uncertainty, and make it harder for companies like Nvidia to get the materials they need.
So it's a complex picture. You've got this incredible technological leap forward on one hand, and then you have these economic and political factors that could create some serious obstacles.
Exactly. And that's the big question, right?
Right.
Will Nvidia be able to navigate these challenges and capitalize on this AI boom? Or will they get tripped up along the way?
Yeah, only time will tell. Okay, let's move on now to the electric vehicle market. And of course, we can't talk about EVs without talking about Tesla and Elon Musk. It seems like they're facing some new challenges these days.
They are. So reports from mid-March highlighted the increasing competition that Tesla is facing in the EV market.
Yeah, and one company in particular seems to be giving them a run for their money, BYD, a Chinese automaker.
That's right.
What's BYD doing that's shaking things up? Like, what's their secret sauce?
Well, their big advantage seems to be charging speed. They've launched EV models that can reportedly charge much faster than Tesla's, even with a supercharger network.
So basically, you can get more juice in less time. And in the EV world, that's a huge deal.
It is. I mean, range anxiety is still a real thing for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And the faster you can charge your car, the less of an issue that becomes.
Makes sense.
So BYD's focus on faster charging could really give them an edge. especially as they expand into new markets.
So it's not just about the car itself anymore. It's about the entire ecosystem around the car.
Exactly. It's about the charging infrastructure, the convenience, the overall user experience.
Right. And let's not forget, Tesla is still a huge player in this market. They're a trillion-dollar company. They've been instrumental in advancing battery technology and building out that charging infrastructure that we were just talking about. So they're not going down without a fight.
No, they're definitely not. They're still a dominant force in the EV space. But this competition from BYD is a real threat, and it'll be interesting to see how Tesla responds.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to watch how this plays out. And of course, as if leading Tesla wasn't enough, Elon Musk now has another gig. He's heading up a new government department, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, as everyone's calling it.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is kind of a wild turn of events. So what exactly is DOGE, and what's Musk's role in all of this?
So DOGE is an initiative under the Trump administration that's focused on finding ways to make the government more efficient, cut costs, streamline operations, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Musk is basically the head honcho. He's in charge of figuring out how to make it all happen.
And knowing Musk, I'm sure he's got some pretty bold ideas about how to do that.
Oh, he does. And one of his most talked about proposals is to give every American a $5,000 stimulus check.
Wow. A $5,000 stimulus check. How's he planning to pay for that?
His idea is to fund it through massive cuts in federal spending.
So basically, find all the waste and inefficiency in the government and use those savings to give people money. It's an ambitious plan, to say the least. And I'm guessing it's generated a lot of debate.
Oh, yeah, it's a very controversial proposal. Some economists think it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
They say it would decimate essential services and programs.
Right.
Others think it could be a game changer. They argue that the government is bloated and wasteful, and that there's plenty of fat to trim.
So it's a classic case of, are you cutting the fat or are you cutting into the bone?
Exactly. And it's going to be up to Musk and his team at DOGE to figure out how to strike that balance.
And in the meantime, it sounds like all this multitasking might be taking a toll on Tesla.
Yeah, there are reports that Tesla's stock price has dipped recently, and some analysts are pointing to Musk's divided attention as a possible factor.
Makes sense. Investors can be skittish, and when they see a CEO with their fingers in so many pies, it can raise some concerns.
It can. And there are also concerns about how Trump's trade policies, especially the ones on imported components, could affect Tesla's bottom line.
Right, those tariffs could increase their costs and make their cars less competitive.
Exactly.
So it's a really interesting situation. You've got this incredibly innovative company that's facing new competition, and at the same time, its CEO is now a major player in the government.
It is, and I think it really highlights how intertwined the worlds of business, technology, and government have become.
So as we wrap up, let's take a step back and look at the big picture. We've talked about the unclaimed stimulus checks, Nvidia's groundbreaking AI chips, and the evolving landscape for Tesla and Elon Musk. How do these seemingly separate stories fit together to paint a broader picture of the U.S. economy in March 2025?
I think what's fascinating is that each of these stories touches on a different aspect of the economic forces that are shaping our world right now.
Okay.
The unclaimed stimulus money speaks to the challenges of getting financial assistance to the people who need it most.
Right, so it's about the effectiveness of our social safety net and the role of government in supporting individuals and families.
Exactly. And then you have Nvidia's advancements in AI, which represent the incredible pace of technological innovation and the massive investments that are being made in areas that could transform entire industries.
So it's about the potential for technology to drive economic growth and create new opportunities.
Exactly. And then you have Tesla and Musk, which is really a story about the changing nature of leadership and the blurred lines between the private and public sectors.
So it's about the role of powerful individuals and companies in shaping not just markets, but also government policy.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
So if we distill it down, what are the key questions that these trends raise about the trajectory of the U.S. economy?
I think there are a few big ones that come to mind. First, how effective are our government programs at providing economic relief? And what are the long-term implications of so much unclaimed aid?
Okay.
Second, can technological innovation in fields like AI translate into broad-based economic growth, or will the benefits be concentrated among a select few?
Right.
And third, how will the increasing influence of individuals like Elon Musk, who are straddling the line between business and government, shape the future of our economy and our society?
Those are some really important questions, and they're not easy ones to answer.
No, they're not. but they're questions that we need to be thinking about as we navigate this complex and ever-changing economic landscape.
And that's what we're trying to do here on the Deep Dive, to provide you with the information and insights you need to make sense of it all.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this thought. Consider how these seemingly disparate events, from a forgotten government program to cutting-edge chip technology and the actions of a prominent entrepreneur, collectively paint a picture of the economic forces at play in your own life and the wider world.
That's a good point.
What aspects of this deep dive resonated most with you as you navigate the economic landscape of 2025? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thanks, everyone.